This is Matt for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. I'm delighted to be joined by S-Jam's Shane Watson. Shane, how's things, mate?
Very good, mate. Fresh out of the Romford Ball Christmas party last night. Good to catch up with Johnny Fisher, Big John, and the Juggernaut, who made an appearance. But yeah, mate, all good, mate. Really excited for a big 2023, and nice to have a little bit of time off with family over Christmas, and then ready to get going again.
Yeah, 100%. I think everyone's sort of waiting for that little bit of time off now over the Christmas period. How much do you look forward to this bit of time off? Because you're on it from the start of the year to the end, isn't you? You don't seem to get a break.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't really like time off because I feel like I'm missing out on something, or something's going to happen if I'm not around. But this time is well needed, man. I haven't been back to Scotland for a long time, so I'd like to get back to see family, see my dogs and everything like that. Man, I haven't seen them all for ages, so nice to have like a week off, especially like Christmas, because everyone kind of like takes a bit of time off. So just take a bit of time off, see family, and then recharge for the new year.
100%. We speak often enough, but you've had another terrific year at S-Jam. Some of the fighters have made some unbelievable progression, from the young fighters to returning fighters, and obviously the Juggernaut's doing his thing at sort of leading the way for you. How pleased are you just overall with the progression of how things have gone for you a lot this year?
You know what, you can never take a win for granted, man. Like I say this to people all the time, even some of the ones that are more expected than the others. Like another year of wins and being undefeated, which is something we take a lot of pride in as a management company. Yeah. Listen, first of all, what a manager's job is to matchmake and make sure they're guiding their fighter's career properly. If you're guiding them to be undefeated with back-to-back years, and which is something you've done ever since the company started, I mean, you're already doing something right, and that should be a massive, and it is a massive attraction to other fighters as well. Like, so you can never take that for granted. It's another year going forward where the fighters are going to earn more money and be able to progress with their careers. So first, like obviously that's a big thing for us. And yeah, I'm over the moon because listen, it's not even like we've had easy fights this year. Like Marku for the WBC silver after that in Albania. You've got Joyce against Parker. You've got like mate, you've got, like Guido had a tougher fight against a Mexican early in the year, and like Janae's not had easy fights yet from his debut, and then like you've had Johnny Fisher's had to step up this year. John Hedges stepped up this year. Mate, the list goes on. Lisa Whiteside, like they've all stepped up this year, really. Even Janae from his debut, like, and you look at some other management companies, some of their fighters are losing 3 or 4 fights in because they're not being matchmade and looked after properly, you know. But that's just something we don't do. So we don't lose. We haven't lost, and that's something I want to continue to do in 2023.
Absolutely. Well, let's start at. Don't want to put him in sort of a ranking order, but let's start with the Juggernaut because he's a one-of-a-kind character, Joe Joyce. Another incredible year. I think we've spoke about this before, but I don't think we've done it on camera. But have you seen a 15-fight record like this? Like, as in from start to finish, his resume. We always talk about resumes in boxing, but he's only 15 fights deep. A last fight against Joseph Parker. It really is. It's a terrific record.
No, I haven't. And like even you look at AJ's record, and at 16, he was an IBF world champion. But other than Dylan White at the time, he was only less than British level. Like, obviously now looking back, Dylan White is obviously a very good fighter, but at the time, he hadn't really beaten anyone or anything. So that was the only real notable win on AJ's record at the time, because the only other people he really beat at the time were people like Dennis Baktov and Gary Cornish, and obviously Gary Cornish, without being disrespectful, didn't turn out to be very much as a heavyweight and whatnot, and like Constantine Erich and people like that, but they weren't really of much level. But obviously Dylan White was, and then he fought Charles Martin for a vacant he didn't fight him for a vacant title. He got a voluntary title shot against Charles Martin, and but Joyce has done it the hard way, mate. Beating Parker, like you think Parker, Dubois, Lenroy Thomas in his 4th fight for the Commonwealth, Ian Lewison on his debut, even people like Big Nasty Donny Palmer, like he was 6'10" and had beaten Brazil and Prince Charles Martin that in the amateurs, you know. No, it wasn't an easy test for someone who'd only had a couple of fights. Joe knocked him out in the first round. Like, he's being and then you've got Carlos Takam chuck in there and that as well. Like, a lot of good names, solid names. Brian Jennings, like, I don't feel like he was really getting the respect he deserved for his resume until the Parker fight. That was his real breakthrough fight, and now he starts to get the credit he deserves.
You literally just took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say, do you feel like now, after the Parker fight, because I think it's easy to forget how good Joseph Parker was on that night. Joe Parker would have stopped quite a lot of heavyweights tonight and would have been a handful for anyone. But I think it really did show what Joe Joyce was all about. Do you think now is the time where people are starting to go, you know what, Joe Joyce is the toughest fight for pretty much anyone in the heavyweight division right now on current form as well?
I mean, rightly so though, as well. Like, in a way, like, listen, I'm the biggest Joe Joyce fan in the world, but like, that was his real test at world level. Yeah, like, you only know how good someone is, and this is anyone, by the way, when they've got in there at world level. And you know what, Parker's a good measuring stick because he fought so many top names, and then you can compare how Joyce dealt with him compared to how he dealt with him, and this is why Joe gets the respect, because when you're knocking somebody out, and it wasn't a stoppage, it wasn't the corner pulling him out, it was a straight 10 count KO. Yeah, so he actually got knocked out by the rules of boxing. So it was a straight 10 count. Yeah, and that goes a long way when you're knocking out someone as tough and rugged as Joe Parker. And that was, by the way, technically form wise, as good as Joe Parker's ever been going into that fight. That win and how he came off against Derek Chisora, which was all we could have gone off from before that, was the best he's ever looked as a professional. So, going off of that, and they say you're only as good as your last fight, technically that means that was a career best Joseph Parker that Joyce knocked out. And then that's a good measuring stick for Joyce and the fans, because then they can see, well, Joshua didn't knock out Parker, and did he not only not knock him out, he didn't really put a dent in him all night. And then you've got Dillian Whyte. I mean, if that first knockdown didn't get given against Parker, that would have, and that was going to be a 10-9 round to Parker anyway, because he was winning that round, and that would have been a 3-point swing. He wouldn't have actually lost that fight, and not a lot of people actually bring that up. He wouldn't have actually lost that. It would have been a draw on the scorecards.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, and he was like so close to knocking Dillian Whyte out at the end. Yeah. Like, so again, like, there was just a fight that was not even in any way, shape, or form like that for Joe. And then you've got to think he's beaten Andy Ruiz, and he beat Hughie Fury, and like, he's beaten a whole, obviously Carlos Takam in his prime as well.
Yeah.
Like, he's got Joe Parker's record, no joke either. You know what I mean? I mean, Andy Ruiz alone, like, what a win that is, you know. So when you look at it, it's just really, that's the only real time you can compare Joyce to everyone else. Because then again, even like Dubois, as great as a win as it is, and it was a massive win, he was a massive underdog somehow at the time as well. But because Dubois hadn't really fought anyone else at world level, it still doesn't really tell you how good Joe was. So Parker was the fight that did that. And not even just that, like, I think PR-wise, we've done a great job of Joe since as well. Like, he's been on every TV show, every TV channel. He's been jumping in rings and all sorts. So he's just more in people's mind now. So then you're just getting spoken about more, and then you're comparing him to the best more.
I think just coming back to the Parker thing, I think Parker was a different fighter for the previous couple that he's had with Andy Lee. He looks to be a lot better, and he's taking more risks, which makes him a more dangerous fighter. So I believe that he definitely got the best Joseph Parker. And yeah, Joe Joyce is everywhere, like from the quirky commercials that were coming out to the TV programs. And he's, you know what, in boxing, I've not heard one person, and if they did, I'd tell them they were an absolute liar, say anything bad about this geezer. Absolute gentleman. He must be great to work with, though, Shane.
Oh, mate, he's great to work with him. And you know what? Credit to Adam, man. Adam's done a great job over this. Because I came in halfway through, so I've only done half the work, really. But like, he's done great at bringing him through, man. Like, matched him well early on. He's been great at getting in PR. He's been supportive, and a lot of the journey, the credit has to go to Adam, man. He's done a lot.
Yeah.
A lot for Joe, and he's done a lot by us as well. And mate, Joe's incredible to work with. Because do you know what it is, right? Sometimes, like, technically our job is to advise people, yeah? And like, that is what we get paid to do, is to advise people. Joe will listen to every little bit of advice that Adam or I give him. And he's such a pleasure to work with, because he's always happy to listen. He's always happy to get on with it. He never complains.
Mm-hmm.
Even like, hearing the WBA thing about Dubois the other day, that could have really pissed him off, but it didn't. He's like, well, doesn't matter. I'm going to go and fight in March, April, and then I'm going to go and fight Fury anyway, so I don't really care. Like, and he's getting some of it, and he's actually happy for Daniel that he's getting an opportunity. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's like a gentle giant. It's almost like weird when you see him go in there knocking people and rendering people unconscious, because he's just not actually that type of person. He's like, I feel like if I punched him in the face, he'd say sorry to me. He's that kind of a guy. Like, he is like the nicest giant of all time, and he's like so sweet as well. Like, he's such a sweet person. He'll do anything he can to help anyone. If I called him now and asked him for X, Y, Z to help me, he would give me X, Y, Z to help me. Like, he's such a lovely person.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't wait for 2023 for him, because not only is his life financially going to change, and Joe's already earned really good money, by the way, but it's about to go into a whole different dimension of earning good money next year. And not just that, he's not even motivated by the money, just to see him get the opportunities he deserves and what he probably should have had a bit of time ago. And I can't wait. And he's going to be in there against the best. And that is when we were really going to see how good Joe Joyce is.
Well, that's what I want to come on to next. Because of what he's done, he's put himself in an unbelievable position. But we all know right now that the plan is for Usyk to fight Tyson for undisputed. Late February, early March is what I'm hearing. So if that happens, obviously with Dubois getting called as well, what is the plan for Joe? How do we get? Here's the plan for Tyson in the summer if he gets through, or if Usyk wins Usyk in the summer. What's the plan if the belts are obviously in these undisputed fights? What sort of opponents are we looking at for Joe in the meantime? Everyone Deontay Wilder, and I think although he ain't got a belt, that's probably not risk reward kind of thing, but that fight at some point could be incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, well, it might be fun for you. I don't know about fun for us. Well, first and foremost, he's going to be out in March or April, and it has to be against a top 15 opponent in the WBO, because he has to defend the WBO interim in order to keep his status, which means he has to fight for WBO world title next. So, looking at the WBO top 15, anyone would see that they're going to be quite lucky, because there's not actually a bad opponent in there. Not that we'd look for one anyway. Joe doesn't fight bad opponents. But I think from our side, with him fighting Fury or Usyk in August, he'd probably have to fight a southpaw, because he hasn't fought a southpaw since his fourth pro fight, which was Lenroy Thomas, which was some years ago now, looking back. That was on the Bellew Hay undercard. Yeah. And that's still the only southpaw he's fought as a professional. So looking from a preparation point of view, it's quite important, in my opinion, that he fights a southpaw this time. And there's actually only two in the top 15 of the WBO. So it won't be that hard to look at which one will kind of iron up. There's only two of them, and that's Weidman and Zhang. Now, I like the Zhang fight, and I like the Weidman fight, because the Weidman fight puts more pressure on Fury if Joyce stops him. And Zhang really should be undefeated, because I thought he beat Hrgovic. So yeah, they're both good fights for him, really.
I'm going to say, I think people had doubts about Zhang before the Hrgovic fight, and then they saw his performance against Hrgovic. So I think, like you just said, either one of them fights, I think it's a statement, depending on how he does against them. It's going to be a big year for Joe Joyce. Let's move on. You've got one hell of a stable. Let's talk about the Albanian king, Florian Marku, a little bit. He got his homecoming in Albania. What was that experience like?
Well, I heard it was some experience. I actually wasn't there, but it was good. Sold a lot of tickets. Superstars we know. The problem with Florian is, right, if he doesn't know who his opponent is really, he's got no respect for them, right? And he doesn't quite get up for it. It's bearing in mind, you think, oh, you have your homecoming, surely you've got to be up for it, you're fighting for a version of a WBC title. You would think, what is there not to be up for? But he genuinely, if he has not heard of them, doesn't know them, he just doesn't respect them. So you saw it against Lizetto. You've seen it other times in his career where he hasn't respected them. And the times he has performed is when he's respected them. Chris Jenkins, Rylan Charlton, etc. Like, even Maxime Poden, not really. Like, he just hasn't really performed. And like with the Albania setup, it was almost like a dream turned into a disaster, because his mind was more focused on trying to set up the event. He's got to do this, he's got to do that. He wasn't even thinking about the fight by the time the fight had come around. The training camp was really short as well, which didn't help. And he didn't have a lot of time with Grant, and he didn't have a lot of time to do the weight properly either. So bearing in mind all of those problems I've just said, to still get the win against actually quite a good opponent and a tough guy who could punch, it was still a good win. And the only thing you can do from something like that is learn from it, and he has learned from it. He had a really bad hand injury as well, which is why he hasn't fought since, or there's been any talk of him fighting since, because he's had a recurrent hand problem that we've really had to get sorted out. And now, thankfully, it is sorted out, but he's still got a bit of rehab on it before he can get back to punching. But next year's going to be a massive year for him. Look, Florian's world ranked in 2 bodies now, WBC and the IBF. He just needs to keep having big fights, mate. That's what he is. He only gets motivated by big fights. I like the Tyrone McKenna fight for him personally. Early next year, it's a war. Florian Marku actually beat Chris Jenkins popularly. Tyrone McKenna didn't, in my opinion. I actually thought he lost, but he got gifted the win in Ireland. I think the press conference would be good fun. And I think Florian just needs to be in those good kind of fun fights. They're going to push him up the rankings, and then we can kind of see where we go with him. I would like at some point in the year for Florian to contest for the European title. I think that's a good belt for him to win. I think it's a belt he can win, and I think if he can win that kind of a fight, like a European title defense in Albania, would be massive.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of year he has. We all know he's a character, like you say. So it should be an interesting year. Johnny Fisher, someone we talked about. You've just been on his the Romford Bull Christmas party. He's had an incredible year, and I think Eddie said it. He's not seen support like this since like the days of Ricky Hatton, and coming away from the support, because that's what people talk about. He's improving as a fighter, isn't he? He's very raw still. He's very sort of young, but he's building his record now, and he's going out there and learning how to perform under pressure because he brings such a big support. There's always that pressure. How pleased are you with sort of the year he's had and the development in him?
Yeah, mate, I'm over the moon, man. You know what it is? It's really hard to matchmake for, because where he's like changing rapidly, and like so much has changed with Johnny Fisher in a short space of time. Like, so when we went to Vegas, which was in preparation for the Parker camp, he went out there, he did a lot of sparring. Ismail Salas was helping him with a lot of things, teaching him little things as well. And I'm like, oh, who do I put him with next? And then Matchroom came forward with Dominic Musil, and I was like, oh, I don't really fancy him. I was like, he gave David Adelaide nightmares for 4 rounds. He was like winning rounds, landing big shots. He was tough. I was like, and then I've had to watch his hands get wrapped, and he's telling me how he's going to poleaxe Johnny Fisher, and I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? I'm like, what have I done? Like, then Johnny Fisher goes out there and knocks him out in about 40 seconds to catch him with a big right hand. And that right hand, by the way, he was throwing that from that same standpoint in sparring the whole camp, by the way. So he was really working on that kind of a shot. Mm-hmm. And so he's just becoming a nightmare to matchmake for. I don't know who to put him in with. I don't know what he's ready for and he's not ready for. Because where he's improving so rapidly, it's very difficult to measure where he's actually at. Mm-hmm. And he's learned a lot from that in Grammar fight as well. I feel like that was the making of him that night. I feel like that really pushed him on and spurred him on to be better and do better. And bearing in mind all the unlucky stuff that happened to him, like going there with a broken hand and a cut as well. But mate, yeah, so it's going to be a big year for him next year. He's going to fight all around the world. And I think he's going to start off on February 25th at the O2 in his first 8 rounder and a little step up as well.
You mentioned he's going to fight around the world. What are the places you wanted to tick off? You wanted to get him over in the States?
I think the Football Army need to go to Vegas. They need to go to Vegas. I feel like they're made to go to Vegas. They're made to rip up Vegas. Half of them ain't vaccinated as well, so it means it's a reason for them to get vaccinated as well. So we're actually helping out the world, making the world a better place, you know.
No, don't make this into a vaccination video. I'll check it out. But yeah,
he just needs to fight around the world, build the brand, build the name, like, can you imagine, like, you know, in some of these American fights, there's no atmosphere whatsoever, yeah? Johnny Fisher will take 1,000 people over to Vegas to fight an 8-rounder, and they'll rip the place up, like, not in a bad way, like volume and noise-wise,
yeah,
and make it night for everyone to remember, and everyone's going to think, is this what the Brits are really like? I'm like, and they'll do that on a couple of weeks' notice as well. They're very loyal, very, very loyal people. And Johnny Fisher deserves it. Listen, if you build up a fan base, and like that, and you're bringing the money in, I think you deserve to kind of call the shots and take it around the world and make it even bigger, because he's not just got fans from the UK, he's got fans all over the place. Like when I was in Vegas before, about 3-4 weeks ago, I had Johnny Fisher fans coming up to me all the time, like, when's Johnny gonna fight here and all this? Like, we need to bring the Romford Ball to Vegas. I say, all right. So So yeah, like he deserves the opportunity to fight, but it's good experience for him later on in life. Like one day, because we believe in him, we think he's going to be a headliner in Vegas one day, and like to get that experience in early doors. That Joe did it. He fought in like California and whatnot early on. It's just getting that experience of fighting abroad because it is completely different.
Yeah, I think what I like about Johnny is as well, obviously with his progression, he's got a genuine fan base as well. And what I mean by that is you see all the a lot of people align themselves with a football club and things like that. And there's a lot of genuine people. Obviously, you see like your Warringtons, who's he leads through and through, and that's just worked for him. But when you look at Johnny Fisher, it's like where's this fan base come from? It's not just like from a football club. It seems to be a real sort of tight knit community that everyone's just got behind him because of the person he is.
Yeah, well, if you actually look back when it was a lockdown, Eddie said, and to be honest, I wasn't really familiar with this because obviously you only really know until it happens, but he was saying how the whole of Romford will get behind Johnny Fisher. So obviously Romford, it must just be a kind of area where they get behind their people that are doing well. Like that must just be what it is. And obviously that is what's happening because look at Johnny's fan base. And then when he had his first pro fight with a crowd, you could see that like obviously the whole of Romford do get behind their people. And I think with their family, we should credit to them. It is such nice people who talk to everyone and welcome anyone. Like they literally know everybody. Like they know everyone. And then and now it's got to a point where people just want to be a part of the journey. And they see how much of a good night out it is, and they just want to be a part of it. Like you can literally turn up to a Romford Ball night out, not know anyone, and have a really good night and make tons of friends for life there. I mean, technically, I've done that. Like once upon a time, Johnny was just a random bloke who I didn't know, and so was his dad. And now I go out with them to places, and without any of my own friends, and now I've made loads, and I've like chatting to people, getting on with people. And that's just the way that they are, and it's a credit to them really because they're just such great people, down to earth, so approachable. Like Johnny will talk to everyone and anyone. Like that's just the kind of man that he is, and his dad's the same. I guess that's probably where he gets it from. But yeah, they built the fan base, and they're going to build it even bigger and even bigger, and eventually it's going to be unbelievable when he's in the title fight one day. If he fought Chris Lovejoy now, yeah, he would sell out Leyton Orient Football Stadium, and I'm not joking. And he would sell out the Copper Box as a main event. I'm not on his own, not even needing an undercard. Like that's the level of fan base he has early on, which is outrageous. But I promise you, it's true. Eddie, I don't know if he actually remembers this. Just around his pro debut, he promised that Johnny could fight for the British title at Leyton Orient Football Stadium. And Leyton Orient Football Stadium is quite a big thing for Johnny because Big John, believe it or not, actually played for Leyton Orient once upon a time.
I heard that.
Yeah, actually, I don't think it's for the first time. I think it's for the reserve. So, and I think it's maybe one of the closest football clubs to their house as well. So that'd be quite a big thing for him one day to do that. So, and he would really like to do that. But that's on the agenda in the next year or two.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's an incredible journey what he's on. But yeah, if he can sell out Copper Box already, like you're already halfway there.
Well, you got to think Matchroom do these next gen shows quite a lot now. So like Johnny Fisher headlining against Chris Lovejoy could be a worthy next gen main event. And you get a couple of people on the undercard, but he wouldn't even need it. He would sell that on his own. Like everyone in Essex talks about Johnny Fisher against Chris Lovejoy. I get it all the time. And it's basically Chris Lovejoy will come and talk a load of rubbish if he actually does turn up. I'm like, yeah, Dave Adam fight where he didn't actually fight, but but yeah, it's a big fight. He would talk a lot of rubbish. Johnny will talk a bit of rubbish to him as well. And he's got a good record. He's knocked a lot of people out, so it's exciting, really. But I really hope we can get that fight made next year because it's a big, big fight.
Yeah, I think it's probably the right fight to make as well for where Johnny is in his career as well, and it's someone who will talk to him as well at least, and help with the promotion. But yeah, let's see what happens with that. John Hedges, he's grown well into his professional career now. I think everyone remembers his tricky start on his debut, but he's managed to put together some good wins and a very good knockout victory along the way as well. How pleased are you with Hedges and how he's sort of moulding as a fighter?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm really, really proud of John. Do you know, I probably don't even tell him this enough, but
how's your chance?
Compared to where he came from on his debut, like where he is today, and like he doesn't complain and everyone doesn't moan, just gets on with it. He's fought some tough guys this year as well, man. He beat some undefeated guys. He's beaten some decent amateurs. Like, he knocked a few of them out as well. I'm really proud of how much he's gone on. I think he's starting to become a bit of a man now. The man Trump coming on. I think you can see that in his style as well, and the way he's putting people over. I'm really excited for 2023 for John Hedges. He's got his first 8-rounder early next year. Just waiting on a hand injury on the mend. So, mate, I'm really proud of how he's come on. Mentally, he's a complete different fight. Mark Tibbs has done wonders with him mentally as well. Like, after his debut, he was a little bit nervous, probably questioned himself a little bit. But now he really believes in himself, wants to fight people, doesn't turn anyone down that I put forward to him, and wants titles. He wants titles next year. That's the big thing on his list. He said, Shane, I want titles next year. So that's what we will do. We have to deliver titles for him. And he can go a long way, man. I mean, he's a 6'7" southpaw that's very light on his feet, awkward. He's starting to get the power now, very tough as well, as I've seen in some sparring sessions. And I think he will get better as he steps up opponents, really. The better the opponents, the more they're going to walk onto his shots, which is going to mean more knockouts. So he wants better fights next year. He wants titles, so it's going to be a big year for him next year as well.
100%. And you've got two promising heavyweights. Obviously, you got Guido, Vianello, who's doing his thing abroad, Saul Dacres. Are you ever going to see a scenario where you'd ever put your fighters in with each other? Ever?
Absolutely no chance. You know what it is, right? So see, because we don't take on loads of fighters, see, some managers that sign 30 or 40 fighters, naturally, you're not going to care as much because you can't just care about so many people. Like, it's impossible. And you can't give them that one-on-one time, which is what our kind of like motto is, which is our selling point, is the fact that we can give you that man-to-man management, you know? So, like, we care too much to see two of our own guys hit each other in the face. Like, even watching them spar is hard enough, like, let alone actually fight each other. So, no, it's just not within our interest. And, like, either way you lose. And, like, yeah, it's just, there's not even, like, it's not even like any of them dislike each other enough to, like, make enough money to make it even worthwhile. Like, it's, yeah, there's zero. And I couldn't go through with it. Like, how could I go and watch both of them spar and be involved in their camps? I know they're going to be fighting each other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And you know what? They actually all spar each other too much to probably fight each other anyway. Like, but it's a big year for those. I mean, well, Guido's only where are we at now? Well, just under a month. He's got a massive fight against Stephen Shaw, 23-0, can bang, great amateur. So we're right in it against Stephen Shaw. But I was watching Guido spar Fraser Clark and Richard Riakporhe yesterday, and he's looking great, man. He's in a good place in camp. And it's a big fight for him, January 14th. And when Guido does beat Stephen Shaw, it puts him right up there in the mix, man, because that'd be a big win. And then he goes right up there in the importantness in the top rank as well.
Talk to me about Saul Dacres just quickly. What can we expect for him? I know he's been in there with everyone, so Tyson Fury, the job lot.
Yeah, do you know what? He's had a lot of bad luck, Saul, in a way, right? So a lot of the time, he was meant to fight Dominic Akinlade right up until fiberglass time. Then gets Bracamonte swinging him at the last minute, literally 3 days' notice, because Akinlade failed a brain scan and didn't tell anyone. Like, so then, like, you have to prepare for a complete different fight. And stylistically, I mean, Bracamonte is a tough man, tough man. But for Saul's style, it doesn't really work for him fighting someone like Bracamonte. But we got told it's either Bracamonte or he's off the bill. So, like, Saul needs to fight. He needs some money. He's been inactive. Like, I was like, well, we have to fight Bracamonte then. And then before that, when the opponent that was made for him stylistically, he was coming to win, by the way, good winning record. Then he pulls out at last minute. Then we have to fight Kevin Espindola, who won round against Ivan Ditchko, Olympic bronze medalist. And I was like, well, and never been dropped or even hurt momentarily in his life. And I was like, well, this is not ideal, is it? So he hasn't really had the opponents to make him set the world alight and get people talking about him. But saying that, Saul will be fighting for his first title, the WBA Continental title, which is the same belt that Conor Benn held. I don't know if he still has it for a while. On February the 4th on the Lee Wood undercard against a guy that's only ever been stopped by Hrgovic. He's like 13-1, comes to win, good guy, knocks out. I think he's 10 of his wins or 11 of his wins have come by knockout. So he obviously got a bit of power behind him as well. And they're the kind of fighters that Saul needs. Big guys coming to win, that are going to walk onto his shots. Yep. Then you will see how good he is. Mate, he's so talented, but people haven't seen it. But this is his real opportunity now to show how good he is.
Yeah, looking forward to that, because I hear a lot of good things about Saul Dacres, and you just want to see the opponent that will bring out the best in him, really.
Yeah, 100%. Like, isn't he? Like I said, he's had a lot of bad luck. He's had bad injuries. Well, when he beat Sokolowski, he beat him one arm. Like, he literally, the other arm wasn't working, yeah? Didn't know it, didn't tell me this before, but like, literally wasn't. And then we had to put him in for surgery, and then that's why he was out for so long. So it's not like a fight does make an excuse. Number one, he won the fight and he won it comfortably. So he doesn't need to make an excuse. And number two, he actually had surgery and was out for ages. I was like, mate, like to beat Sokolowski with two arms is a good win, but with one arm and hurt him as well. He could have got him out of there at one point. Is a statement in itself, and that's what I mean. You know, those kind of guys coming forward and going for the win, they're going to make themselves look good because they're going to walk onto shots, and that's kind of how his style works. See, if you're tucking up and holding on for dear life, he's never going to really look that good. But if you come in, letting your hands go, going for the win, that's when he's going to look good, and that's when he's going to hurt and knock people out.
100%. Lerone Richards, horrible year really for him. I mean, he got that IBO world title, and it just seems like nobody either wants to fight him or they avoid him, and then he has the chance at the end of this year to get out and fight Zach Chelly, and like things happen. He had a head injury, and now we're looking at next year. I mean, how difficult and how much of a ball ache really has it been for him this year?
Yeah, mate. Obviously, yeah, not ideal. Been very frustrating, even more so from his behalf. He's he had one fight scheduled. Obviously, a freak accident happened, and now we're here, and it's looking like he's going to be 15 months inactive, which for any fighter, especially when they're healthy, is really not ideal. But saying that, we know how talented Lerone is, we know how good Lerone is, and we know that he'll be a world champion one day. Unfortunately, it's just a spanner in the works as well. That's got in the way for a bit, but we believe in him. We believe in his trainer. We believe in the plan that we've got moving forward for him. We think he's going to fight early next year. He spent a bit of time with his son right now because he hasn't got to see him much because of training camp, but he'll have a fight in the early part of the year to have his to get the ring rust off against still a good level opponent, whether it's Zach Chelly, whether it's someone else. And then there's big fights for him, mate. We want Belanga. We want big names in the division. Yeah. We want world titles. So anyone and everyone that can give him something, and that's what we will do. And then we'll hopefully get him tied down to a promoter as well.
Yeah, fingers. He seems to have a lot of bad luck this year, so it'd be nice to see him get back out there. We've nearly gone through your whole stable. A few more though. Lisa Whiteside took a break from boxing to be a full-time mum, but she's bounced back into boxing. She looks a really, really good fighter. How quickly do you think you'll move her through the ranks? And do you think next year will be the time to start looking at world titles and things like that?
Well, we wanted to fight for a world title in this fight, but with Dina Forsland, he's probably the hardest one out of the lot. But the WBO actually turned her down, unfortunately, despite her doing an 8-rounder in her last fight. And usually that's enough for you to then go and fight for a world title in women's boxing. But there's talks of her fighting Stephanie Levy in February and a few other names. We've got to tie her down with someone. The problem is with Lisa, and the reality is, no one really wants to fight her. She's 37, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, great amateur.
Yeah.
Nicola Adams always ran away from her.
Yeah.
She's not horrible to people. She's really nice. So like the factor of like the risk reward isn't really there. So she's really struggled to tie down a biggish name to fight her. But we're confident we'll get a decent name for February, and then we'll fight for a world title after that. Yeah, unfortunately we couldn't fight Dina Forsland. That would have been a great fight in Denmark. But sooner rather than later that will happen. But we need to get a big fight, a big-ish name in February, like a Stephanie Levy, something like that. And you get a win over something like that. You'll go top 5 in every governing body, and then hopefully Pro Bellum can make something happen for her.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Right, a couple of young guns. Darius Fulgham, who's done a bit in the States. I know you think you were in his corner for one fight. I don't know how that managed to play out. Junaid Boston as well, who's just come off a Matchroom show and stunning knockout. And Tommy Fletcher, who looks extremely heavy-handed and looks like he's got big things. Mark Tibbs speaks highly of him. Talk about these three and these sort of prospects and how they've sort of got on and what you're expecting from them in this next coming year.
Yeah, well, actually, a little bit on Darius. We don't actually work with him anymore. So, yeah, no, yeah, we haven't really announced it, but basically, yeah, it's nothing deep. I'm still pals with him and whatnot, and so's Adam. It's completely amicable split. What it was, it's just we had a difference in opinions. It happens sometimes. You know, we thought one thing, he thought another. We wanted him to go this way, he wanted to go that way, and like in his career, is what I'm saying. And then yeah, we just thought it's the best idea for him and for us that he goes elsewhere. And but listen, he is a super talented fighter, man. Like, I swear, if he doesn't become multi-weight world champion, whoever's looking after him or whatnot has not done it properly, because he is so talented. He could win a world title now, and he's only 3-0. Like, he's knocking out 10-1 guys in 1 or 2 rounds, no problem. Like, giving them full camps and that. Like, and if you see what he does to elite level people in sparring, it's an absolute joke. Like, he's so talented. So hopefully, moving forward, whoever he goes with and whatever he does, hopefully he can still reach the top. He's a great fighter. They're a very good man as well. He's got a good family around him. I like Darius a lot. Sinead Boston, what a fighter, by the way. Like, literally is fighting the good people from his debut. He's only 20 years old, knocking people out, doing it in spectacular fashion. He has that whole Prince Nassim Hamed aura about him. Styles is quite similar as well. Wants to fight anyone. He was asking me to put him in with someone who's 16-0 with 14 knockouts the other day. And I was like, for a youth title, for like barely any money. I was like, mate, what are you talking about? So you got to like rein him in a little bit sometimes. I mean, it's always good to have a fighter that does want to fight anyone.
Yeah.
But it does make matchmaking a bit easier. I haven't got to deal with any complaints for anyone. All you've got to do is make sure you don't push someone like that too far, because the public are asking for tougher fights because of how exciting he is and how he's dispatching his opponent, which is a compliment to him, really. But yeah, I'm really excited for him. He'll be fighting for titles next year. He'll also be back out on February the 4th on the same bill as Sol on the Lee Wood undercard. And that'll be his first state rounder. And he's looking at really stepping up as well. Like, he doesn't get motivated by fighting lower level guys. He, like, on his debut, he wanted to fight someone that's 5-0 apparently. That was just before we signed him. Like, he doesn't get motivated for journeyman and that. He wants to fight guys that are coming to win every time. So I'm really excited about next year for Junaid. I'm really excited about Junaid's career as a whole. He could literally, there's no reason why he won't go to the top. He's got the personality, got the charisma, he's got the style, and more importantly than anything, he's got the ability. So really excited for a big year for Junaid. And the other, Tommy Fletcher. What can you say about Tommy that you don't already know? You know, freakish power, like absolute joke how hard he is for a 20-year-old, like putting people out cold. I mean, even his last opponent was actually quite good. He got robbed against a 6-0 guy and he beat a 2-0 guy. Like, really, someone who's 3-0 shouldn't have really been fighting that, or he was 2-0 going into that fight. So excited for him. He'll be on the Yard Peterbiev undercard in his first 6-rounder against another decent opponent, and then we'll push on from there.
On to Conor Benn. It looks like he's put a statement out there saying basically that he's innocent. His team have proven his innocence. What do you make of this scenario? There was 2 failed tests that he came out saying he'd failed 2 tests. When he says his team have proven his innocence, what do you think will come of this?
Like anything in life, I would rather wait and see what happens before I judge. I mean, you should never really judge someone before you know the full story. But at the end of the day, what you have to remember is he has failed 2 drugs tests. When you're putting up Instagram stories and stuff saying, like, I can't remember what it was, but like basically people had made their minds up on him, people had judged him and that, like, he remembers who they are. But you did fail 2 drugs tests. Like, you're acting like it was, I don't know, like someone gave him a dodgy glove but he didn't know about or something. You failed 2 drug tests that you tried to sweep under the carpet and still try to fight a weight-drained person, you know? At the end of the day, whether it turns out he was actually innocent in these 2 failed drugs tests, you still failed 2 drugs tests. So what that means is people are going to judge you, and they're right to do that, yeah? Like, can you imagine if one of his rivals failed a drugs test or something, and they'd beaten him in a fight, what his reaction would be, or something like that? I mean, he'd go wild, and he'd go crazy, and rightly so. Like, so I don't really understand that narrative that he's pulling, like everyone's stupid in that for like going against him. He did fail 2 drug tests at the end of the day. Whether he's innocent or not, people are right to judge you and go against you for that, because that is against the rules of the game and the sport. So they're absolutely right to do so. Now, moving forward, you don't really know until you see how it all plays out and the facts. I mean, I'm not a pharmacist or an expert in illegal drugs, so you only have to really find out what has happened, like the traces are in his system, if they think it was contaminated and whatnot. You can only really, I'll let the professional people do that, man, because I don't really know. But obviously, it's not looking good for him. But going from his team and seeing what they've said, it looks like he's going to be fighting again soon. It looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel for him, I guess.
Yeah, when I saw the statements, we're not him, so we can't comment on it. But you'd sort of think, I think when he looks back at it, he may look and think, well, if like you've just mentioned there a scenario, if he got beat by someone and they failed the test, I'm not sure his first reaction would be, oh well, he's saying he's innocent, and he wouldn't be mad about it. So
of course, yeah.
I get the public's outcry. I think more of the stick, and maybe rightly so, went towards the promoters, because they knew about the test for weeks anyway, and I think TalkSport did quite a bit on it as well, and it's showing how they were trying to still put the fight on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because if someone hasn't been banned, so from Eddie Hearn's standpoint of view, Conor Benn was never banned. Then what is he supposed to do? Just cancel the fight? I mean, if the fight is still on a fight and their teams are still up for it, what is Eddie supposed to do? He's not going to be like, oh, our biggest payday of the year and the biggest money fight for DAZN, which was their big breakout, DAZN UK pay-per-view, they were going to do tons of eyes. Why would he pull it? It makes no sense for him or any of the others to do that. Like, if everyone wants to fight, everyone's happy to go ahead with a fight. Why is the guy who's going to make loads of money out of it and the network that he works for, like, I don't even know if he'd be allowed to just pull it. Like, I don't know if that would break the terms of the contract. That's probably one for Adam morally, but yeah, it would make no sense to do so. But the people you have to look at really more so is Chris Eubank's team, because they've got the duty of care for Chris Eubank. You know, they're the ones that are meant to look out for his best interest. Eddie Hearn represents Conor Benn. He was looking out for Conor Benn's best interest there, yeah? So, but Chris Eubank's team, you would have to maybe look at it a little bit different. But then again, if Chris Eubank still wants to fight, what are they supposed to do? Like, you can only advise someone. You can't literally tie him up and tell him he ain't getting in the ring, can you? So from that point of view, you just have to kind of let him get on with it. But I'm happy it didn't, because if Chris Eubank Jr. did get hurt in there, it would have put the sport in very bad light. And also, we don't want Chris Eubank Jr. to get hurt, and we want it to be a fair fight. And if someone's failed not one but two drug tests, it probably shows it wasn't going to be a fair fight. If he meant it or not, he would still have had a slight advantage, wouldn't he? So
yeah, and let's just let me just flip that though. We mentioned there obviously the silence and duty of care towards Chris, and what's Eddie supposed to do? The board haven't banned him, but let's just say, all right, well that's fine. It carried on, and then Chris gets seriously hurt. We've seen it in the sport. I mean, just look at your Michael Watsons, Nick Blackwell's, and some of the Gerald McLennan's. Say that happens then, and all because nobody said or done anything. The sport's in absolute tatters, isn't it? And plus,
absolutely. I mean, what kind of message is that sending out to fans? Like, we should learn from the harsh lessons we've had to survive in the past, like Scott Westgarth as well. And and they were completely fair fights. They weren't. From what we know, there's no dodginess or anything going on there. It was just two strong, tough men fighting one another. So we should learn from the tragedies. Patrick Day, another one, who obviously that was on a Matchroom show. Like, these terrible, sad stories, and these are from men that are just fit 100% men. Like, these are not people that have juice. These are not people that are going in there that we know of, weight trained. So we should learn from lessons like that, and we should learn from this. Just because nothing did happen doesn't mean we shouldn't learn from it. Boxing is dangerous enough as it is, and it's a hard sport as it is, let alone these crazy catch weights and drugs in people's systems, whether they knew about it or not. But it does become difficult to really feel sorry for when you fail too as well. And it's not really a drug that falls into your protein shake, is it? So, but again, I don't want to judge him too much. You've got to wait to find out the facts from the professional people, and then you can make a decision on whether you're with him or not.
Could we not, moving forward, could boxing not look in a better light if they said, like the contracts, and we said it was only the board that could cancel the fight? Would it not be good to have in the contract say, if either of you fail a test and we are made aware of it prior, don't matter if it's 8 weeks before, 16 weeks before, this fight is getting cancelled until we get an outcome. And that has to be in the contract, because then that way, nobody can be ostracized. Nobody can be like, well, Eddie should have done this, Callum should have done that. Why, Conor this, Conor that. We just have nobody fighting. Could that not be something that gets put into play?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way. Or why don't the governing bodies just do their job and act when they're supposed to? Then you don't even need to do that, would you? what is the point of
On the
appointing
board,
people like Vida and that, who obviously can't make decisions to ban people? Their job is to go and drug test you and catch you if you're doing so. So, but what is the point in doing that if when you fail, it means nothing? Like, well, that was pointless to begin with, them, wasn't it? It's just down to governing bodies doing their job and banning people when they fail drug tests. Like, the unfortunate thing is, Conor Benn wasn't getting banned until fight week because people only found out about it then. So basically, what that means is, if people didn't find out about it, that'd have been swept under the carpet. And then it makes you think how many other fighters have got away with it in the past that hasn't been leaked to the press.
Yeah.
So that's quite worrying. But you don't have to put it. You shouldn't have to put it in contracts. Like, imagine it being in that bad of a place that you need to write that into a contract. Why can't the people who are there to safeguard the sport just safeguard the sport like they're supposed to? Then that fight would have been called off. Just like, it doesn't mean it would have been called off ever. If Conor Benn's innocent, then that fight would have got it on down the line. But you need to protect people's health, and that is what people are there to do, like in the board and whatnot. Don't just pretend it never happened and let the fight go on. Ban people and then investigate while you ban them, and then if they're innocent, you can let them go again. And if they're not, then you give them a ban, and then hopefully they learn from it and don't do it again.
Well, that's what I mean. And I mean, in fairness to Eddie, he's always said it was a bit of an anomaly. Like, what do we do? The board never said this, that, and the other, and everyone were calling on Eddie. Well, you knew you should have done this. So I know it seems such a simple thing to put in, but it would sort of eliminate any of this coming about, and obviously the welfare of the fighters. But anyway, couple more from me before we go, because you've given me a lot of your time. Name me your fighter of the year, not S-Jam, because I know there's probably a few contenders, but name me your fighter of the year for this last year and why.
Fighter of the year, yeah?
Yeah, who's it go to?
Well, you can't look past Joe's year because he's fought at the highest level and he's got
outside of S-Jam, not Joe Joyce.
Outside of S-Jam. Oh, okay. Oh, let's have a think. Right. Who's with Maxi Hughes?
Maxi Hughes?
Yeah, do you know why? Right, for starters, I say maybe he hasn't even fought at the highest level in a way. I guess he kind of has. But
I love Maxi. I'm down for it.
Like, it's just a career. Like, I remember watching Maxi Hughes when I was a kid, right? And like, he was always like that kind of like English title gatekeeper at that level, right? And then I remember he knocked out one of my mates called Danny Cassius Connor, who I really like, in a fight I actually thought we were going to lose because Danny Cassius Connor was in really good form at the time. And then he kind of got beaten by like way less level again, Maxi Hughes. Then out of nowhere, and I know this wasn't last year, I think it was the year before, he takes a fight on a couple of days' notice against John O'Carroll, who at the time
beat Scott Quigg.
Career best win against Scott Quigg. Beats him, and then just started beating everyone. And now no one gave him a chance against Gid Galahad, beats him as well. And now I think he's going to fight for the IBF title, I got told. So, and obviously he's already won the IBO. And I'm never going to, he could literally fight Tyson Fury. And I don't think I'd write Max Hughes off anymore, to be honest. I think I'm done with losing money on him and calling these fights wrong. So I think it has to go to people like Max Hughes, because you know what it is? He's done it the hard way as well. Like, he had no easy runs. He probably had to take less money to begin with in that as well, and probably getting paid well now. And like, just the people he's beaten, if you look from where he was, unbelievable. He's literally Cinderella man. So I have to go with Maxi Hughes, because it looks like he's going to have an even bigger 2023 as well. So he's my fight of the year.
Yeah, do you know what? I was expecting, and I like Maxi, I get along with Maxi also. I'm pleased you've said that, because I was expecting a Dimitri Bivol. So I'm glad you've thrown Maxi in there, because he's deserving of it. He has been done it the hard way as well when you look at his career.
Done it the hard way, done it on short notice, always stays fit, stays ready, doesn't complain, fights anyone, puts up a good fight all the time. Like even Giovanni Straffon, like, look what that geezer did to
Hennessy.
Who was it? It was James Hennessy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, mate, these are like killers, mate. And like, look what he's doing to them. And he almost stopped him in that fight as well.
Yeah, he should have.
So yeah, it has to be Max Hughes for me.
Right, and last one, fight of the year, which has been the best fight of the previous year.
Lee Wood against Conlan. You just can't get rid of that, can you? Just the drama, the round one knockdown. Lee Wood looked out on his feet in the first round, come back into it. The exchanges that they were having in the middle of the ring, which a lot of the time I think Michael Conlan was actually getting the better of. And then the drama of knocking him out right at the end, falling out of the ring. That's a rematch I'd really like to see next year, especially after the form that Conlan looks and the couple of good wins he's got. That'd be a massive fight for like Nottingham Football Stadium. I think that would surely sell that out now. For Nottingham Forest, sorry, not to county if anyone getting confused. But that'd be a big fight. That'd be a big fight for next year. But yeah, what a fight! It had everything. It had the build up. It had the drama, and it had the finish. You know, so what a fight that was.
What do you think happens in the rematch?
I think it'd be a carbon copy of the first one. I think I can just see, unless Conlan can actually get him out there this time and he hurts him. Because look, Lee Wood is vulnerable. He can be hurt and he can be beat. Look at what Jazzy Dickens did to him in the golden contract and whatnot. But it's just difficult to see Conlan not getting caught and having that muscle memory and flashbacks what happened to him last time against Lee Wood and getting knocked out. But what a fight. Anything can happen. I could see Conlan knocking him out the first round.
Yeah.
I could see Conlan getting knocked out cold. I could see Conlan winning on points. You can see there's so many different outcomes, which is why that fight is so good. No one really knows who's going to win that fight until they're in there, until the fight's over, I guess. But it's a great fight. And hopefully the rematch gets made. But saying that, who said Mauricio Lara doesn't knock Lee Wood out? So that's a tough fight in its own right in February. So
I mean, from the outside looking in, just coming on to this, if you Lee Wood, I'm all for advocates for people taking tough fights, and Mauricio Lara is a tough fight. But are you surprised he's fighting him? Because
I'm not actually, because I was speaking to Lee Wood the other day at the Leeds fight week.
Yeah,
he was in the hotel after the fight night when I was having breakfast, and I was chatting to him, and he was saying to me, I was like, mate, why are you still fighting Mauricio Lara? Just wipe the floor with it and unify with that Lopez, or fight Josh Warrington in a massive fight or something like that, yeah. And he was like, mate, if I don't fight Mauricio Lara, it's gonna look like I'm dodging him, and I'm not scared of him. So why would I not fight him? It's gonna look like I didn't actually pull out of injury last time. It's gonna look like I did it to avoid him. So I'm gonna go and fight him. I'm gonna go and knock him out. And mate, that kind of attitude, as a fan, you just have to be in awe of that, really. I mean, it's going to be a great fight. Two absolute knockout artists fighting each other. There's no way that fight's going the distance. Someone's getting it. And it's a great, exciting fight for fans. And if Lee Wood can beat him, bloody hell, he has to surely be number one in the division moving forward after that.
Well, I think it's going to, if that's who he is definitely fighting next, I think it looks like Lopez is obviously with Top Rank. So Conlan.
I heard that Lopez is fighting. He's fighting Michael Conlan. And if Conlan wins that, imagine that as a unification, the rematch. That is an unbelievable fight. That is like I don't know where to hold it. Maybe that could be bigger than Nottingham Forest Football Club. That might be like a big stadium in Ireland. But then I guess Lee would knock him out. Is that the right to have the home advantage, isn't he? But who even needs home advantage? It's not going. I don't know if it's going to go distant. So, but who knows? But they both have to win their fights anyway. They're both in difficult fights if both of those fights get made.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be. God, I hope we see the rematch. It was such a good fight first time around. But we'll see. Look, Shane, thanks for giving us some of your time. We've ran through your whole stable. You give us your fighter of the year, and fingers crossed for another good 2023 from you. So appreciate it, and have a good Christmas.
Top man, thanks, mate. Merry Christmas. Take care. Yeah.